So the pain points begin with the fact that marketers are relatively unfamiliar with that whole ecosystem. And that was essentially accentuated by some work that we have done and others have done that say only 25% of marketers really feel like they have the capability and competency to expertly manage the digital media supply chain. So where does that lead us? It leads us to places where we make decisions that are not economical, that don't necessarily have the consumer at heart, and lead to a complete lack of productivity. And when we defer those decisions and defer that knowledge and understanding and don't have the necessary feedback loops to assess where we are within all of that, we run into the symptoms, the outcomes, like brand safety issues, like fraud issues, like transparency concerns, like viewability concerns, which then lead to issues such as ad blocking, which again, now the consumer is saying, ooh, somebody else is making the right decisions or making decisions that are going to affect the consumer. Consumers are saying, that's not the ad experience I want, so I'm walking away from all of you. It's a business system that, for me, is largely out of control. There are select areas of progress. It hasn't been universal or as widespread as one would like. I am happy to say that, as I was indicating, that the progress is coming in stages and is permeating across almost everything that is done in the digital arena. But when we celebrated, quote unquote, the first anniversary since we released our K2 intelligence report, we asked our members, very simply, we just went out with 1 or 2 questions that said, have you learned anything that has come out of the transparency report, and have you done anything? And if you have, what have you done? And we found out that 60% of the members that had read the report had actually done something. And the areas that were most appreciated was the fact they all got a deeper look into their contract, and they all began to recognize that they needed to significantly update contract provisions, regardless of when it had been renegotiated previously, number one. And number two, within that, they began to re-examine audit rights. And that was fundamentally important too, because within the digital media buying landscape, there are numbers of levels of audit right capabilities, and where most marketers are falling out were the most basic audit rights that pretty much didn't give them insight into anything. So there's been a great degree of recalibration of those particular areas. But there needs to be a greater degree of transparency. Look at all the measurement missteps that have taken place with Facebook over the past year. I mean, at one point, it was almost like every other month there was some major revelation of an oops. And you accumulate a lot of those oopses together, and you have some real problems there, which may have led to incorrect decisions at one point in time. I'm not saying that they did, but when you increase that probability, you know, everybody becomes cautious. So are we being truly transparent? And so I applaud Facebook and Google for taking bold steps, but also recognize that in the world of truly transparency, and marketers need to make decisions based on facts and data as opposed to guesses and innuendo, that more and more of these things will need to take place. It's sluggish, but it's progress being made, thank you very much, and we do expect to see a lot more. Obviously, I think the most important first step is self-awareness. We've seen a lot of marketers, big and small, not necessarily have a very good understanding of where they are. And sometimes you have to do a report card on yourself and to know what you're very capable at and where your weak points are. That's been the main criticism that we have constantly had of marketers over the past couple of years, is they don't do enough of that self-examination. And granted, times are tougher, which has limited the resources and the capabilities to go do that. But I do think that the most important thing to do is to really give yourself a good health check and to understand what you think has a high degree of ability to work and what is not. What I always find in these things is most people really do not have a good understanding of themselves. And they really need to step back and say, well, where do I start? Let's face it, our marketing ecosystem is extraordinarily complex. And sometimes it's like being dropped in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. You don't know which way to swim or to point your boat if you're lucky enough to have one. So that's why it's very important to get that reference check. Hire a consultant. Hire us, hire somebody that allows you for that opportunity to do that. But you gotta really understand where you are in all of your business processes, because like under the guise of total quality management, if you develop high quality business processes, you will develop high quality business results.